Alrighty, Wednesday, April 3rd. Looking at a session recap here, starting off with the S&P, namely the SPY chart. That was the main focus, at least this structural development here was the main focus this morning for today's action in the index. What we had talked about during yesterday's session recap, as well as this morning during the pre-market prep live stream, was the fact that both SPY and QQQ had closed with a daily hammer in a key area. So SPY had gapped down into that rising 21 MA, which is held as support for essentially since November. If you take a look here, see how well it is held. And so what we wanted to see was whether or not buyers could show any follow through on yesterday's move. So we had the gap down yesterday. Price dips a bit off the open, develops that base into the late morning, early afternoon, and then closes on session high. So we have that afternoon strength. You have a daily hammer that closed, right? So it's a complete candle. We come into today's sesh. What do we think the shape of today's daily bar is going to look like? This is a mental framework that you should come into pretty much every single session with. What do I think the shape of today's daily bar can be? And so for today, it was pretty simple. Anytime we have that hammer, at a key area of support, there are a couple of ways that it can unfold. Obviously, this is not a 100% signal. No signal is going to be 100%, but probability does favor the longs with a setup like this and the potential for the gap fill. Now, the gap did not totally fill. We do see, I like to call this like a partial fill, like it did not trade up into that prior close, but it did trade up into that low. So it traded up into Monday's low, did not trade up into Monday's close. Overall, still an incredible move on the index for today. And I like to get my eyes on the SPY chart every once in a while, anytime I suspect that the action for the regular trading hours may be a bit different than what we see with ES. Now, as a reminder, yesterday's ES bar was quite a bit different, right? Clearly not a hammer. If you're coming into today only using this as your main data point, you're probably going to be treating the session quite a bit differently. So you can develop conviction through, a stronger thesis. And part of the way that I personally do that is by incorporating a little bit of SPY analysis into my approach. So what do we have for today? Well, we know that the gap was filled, right? But as far as actually looking at the ES chart, we can see that this is just an inside day. All of today's action, as far as the ES chart is concerned, is within the prior day's bar. Not all that unusual anytime you have that volatility expansion move, like I've talked about a number of times before. Not unusual to see some volatility compression, right? So you have an expansion move like right through here on FOMC, then you have compression. We have a volatility expansion move yesterday, including that overnight action where price breaks down from that near-term range. Then you have volatility compression. We do have two larger data prints tomorrow as well as Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I believe we have jobless claims tomorrow and then NFP. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure NFP is on Friday then as well. And so tomorrow, what I would do want to see is how price is going to be trading versus today's range. Specifically, going to continue to be looking at this key pivot here in the 5260 area. Buyers are attempting to continue to defend this key pivot. So 5260, that 5257 prior all-time high, this is going to be the key zone for tomorrow. We can see, looking at the intraday action, you do have a break, right? Break up and through that area, a retest that pretty much holds. Now we're back into that zone, pretty much a flush into the lows that, again, receptive buyers are here. So it tells us that most of the action from yesterday's session, this is most likely going to be accumulation. All right, so 52.57, 52.60 main watch for tomorrow. on ES. And then if we jump into NQ, pretty similar story here on NQ. What we wanted to see, flipping to QQQ, rescale the chart here. We wanted to see if buyers, again, we're going to be showing any follow through of that daily hammer right there. Daily hammer sitting on essentially a 2-month range volume point of control. That's going to be a significant level, right? It's going to be a very, very significant level. So coming into the session, expecting there to be some type of buy bar for today's session, again, just based purely off of what we were seeing yesterday. Now location is kind of mid-range, right? Setup is not as clear. Tomorrow's action may be a little bit trickier. Flipping back to NQ, let's take a look at our structure here. So we know that price was down into the near term, or there's more like the intermediate term volume point of control here at 18,270, 18,275 area. So you have a pullback following yesterday's close down back into where that volume point of control was. Receptive buyers found there again. Price trades up to pretty much close the gap, right? Again, looking at QQQ to establish what that gap looks like. Closes the gap. And sellers materialize right there. So setup is definitely a little bit trickier here given the current location. What I'll primarily be focused on for tomorrow on NQ is the end ranges of today's session. So that's going to be looking at the regular trading hours. That's going to be essentially 18,240 by 18,450. And open right through here, for me anyway, is not going to be an ideal location to be getting involved with NQ. So I would like to see some little bit of activity overnight, perhaps an open back down into 18,265, or maybe continued drift higher. Okay, so we'll see what that what the jobless claims is looking like and take it from there. Overall, though, very good action today. Great session. Hope you guys had a profitable day. Again, just to reiterate, as far as tomorrow, easiest money play is going to be materializing near the end ranges of today's session. ES, a particular focus on that daily pivot. 5260 zone, blue zone right through here, and then NQ could work with the 18320. Prefer to see some action near today's low or today's high on that NQ. So see you guys in the morning for the pre-market prep live stream. Have a great afternoon.